Hello and welcome to my channel where I share my experiences as a queer, late diagnosed AuDHD woman while I play some of my favourite cozy games. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, please stick around. I'm very glad to have you here. Today we are breaking down 6 more signs, 6 more things that I didn't know actually were signs of autism. Sign number 1. Loving water, but the act of actually getting into the water is torturous. And this one always kind of really perplexed me. And actually, I kind of made a joke about this to people, saying that I'm just, I'm not a water baby. In Swedish, we have this saying, badkruka, which basically means that you don't like going swimming, especially if you're on a beach or whatever. You don't like getting into the water. But I actually really love being in the water. So I would force myself to get into the water because I would want to have a swim. But I'd take it really, really slowly, and I would feel like an absolute idiot trying to get into the water, doing this slow process, while other people would just kind of hop in and be done with it. But for me, I have to first dip my feet into the water, get them used to the water, then I'll gradually go down, submerge my calves, my knees, my thighs, etc., until I get to the point where I'm basically all of my body is submerged underwater and I can just swim away. And then your body gets used to the water and it becomes a really nice experience for me, especially on a hot day. But now I realize that it's a sensory overload for me to get into that water, because oftentimes it's a hot day if you're going for a swim, right? So I'd be really hot, and then I'd get into this water that is really cold in comparison to the air, and it would just be like a complete sensory overload for my entire body. And it really does feel torturous. Torturous is the only word I can use to describe it. And it may sound over the top, but it's just literally what it feels like, because it feels like not only are daggers kind of going into my body as it gets gradually more submerged into the cold water, it also feels like daggers going into my mind. It's like my brain is kind of just flaring up. And I would guess that the part of your brain that lights up when you feel threatened and makes you want to flee, I'm pretty sure that that lights up in my brain when I go into any body of water. I get the same thing when having a shower. It's an incredibly overwhelming, overstimulating process, but it's not quite as extreme in the shower because it doesn't take as long to get used to hot water as it does getting used to cold water.
Hi, honey.
I don't know if you heard that, but my cat just came in to see what I was doing. And it's actually quite funny that he came in when I was talking about water, because he is oddly obsessed with water for being a cat. So that's funny. No, but anyways, as I was saying, learning about sensory overwhelm, it makes a lot of sense that this would be an incredibly overwhelming sensory situation for me. And I can be a lot more patient with myself. So number 2, feeling incredibly anxious before meeting up with people. I think to some extent, I kind of thought that other people felt the same way. I think for a long time in my life anyway, I thought that. And then I thought I was introverted, and that was why social things made me anxious. But I think honestly, most of all, it's kind of a mix of not quite knowing what to expect when I get to the social situation and getting taken out of my routine, and also the usual social anxiety that comes with being neurodivergent. Just getting to the place where I'm going to be doing this social activity, whether it's a job or, I'm meeting friends, going out to eat or something like that. Just commuting there brings a lot of stress because it's a lot of sensory stuff happening. It's very loud, a lot of people. Sometimes, the tube is packed. People who you don't know are like touching you. And, it's just like, it's a lot that goes into meeting people. But I also have a really hard time feeling my feelings. And a lot of my life, I didn't even realize that I was feeling anxious before social things. I just knew that my body like felt a bit off, but I'd force myself to do things. And, I still do because the ADHD side of my brain needs that kind of stimulation, which is, the classic push and pull of being AuDHD. And the thing is, I'd be anxious for days. So let's say I'm meeting the doctor on Wednesday and I made the booking on Friday. Every day up until Wednesday, I will be so focused on getting to this doctor's appointment on time, the social interaction. I'll just be so anxious leading up to that I kind of almost can't think of anything else really. And I know that that is a very common AuDHD thing. Feeling anxious when those people that I'm going to meet up with don't want to make plans or the plans get changed. I think it's instilled in us from a very early age, especially if we're AFAB, that we can't be dramatic. Other people's feelings and what they want to do take precedence over our own feelings and what we need just to function. That you become kind of mask that side of yourself where you need to mentally prepare yourself for what is going to happen. And for me, I kind of need a time frame. Like, I need to know that, okay, on this day at this time, I'm going to be doing this. Because otherwise, I get an enormous amount of stress. And, like, who wants to live like that? It's incredibly difficult to deal with. But I'd want to be, the cool person, the easygoing person. So, with some people, who don't really want to make plans, they just kind of want to keep things loose and spontaneous, or suddenly go changing their plans on me, I'd be like, I'd just pretend to be fine with it, but really, I wasn't fine with it. And now that I understand that this is a sign of autism, I can communicate that better, and I can also kind of prioritize my own needs better, not be cool and easygoing at the expense of myself. I've also realized that because I kind of like built it up in my head as if, if I ask this of people, ask them to make plans and stick to them, that I would be overly dramatic. But it's actually not. I've realized people are actually very okay with it, especially if you explain why. I mean, you don't have to go into, I'm autistic, my nervous system works in this way, so therefore I need plans. You can just say, yeah, I need to mentally prepare myself, so could we just please set a date for this thing? So another thing, not being able to meet people spontaneously. This one I've struggled with my whole life, and it goes into the whole thing of spontaneity being difficult if you're autistic. I don't know, does anyone else do this? Please, if you do this, let me know, because I seriously feel that I am so weird for doing this. But say I'm in town, I'm shopping or whatever, I'm doing something in town, and then if I see someone that I know, and it can even be good friends actually that I want to meet, but seeing them like on the street will cause me to go into a panic, and I've actually just ignored people, even though like I'll check and see if they see me, of course, and if they see me, I'll go and say hi, and it can even turn into a very nice thing. But I don't know. I think it comes down to the spontaneity that I wasn't expecting to see them there. I was focused on doing this one thing, going shopping or whatever, and seeing them kind of broke the routine that I had set in my mind. I just wasn't expecting that. You know what it is? I haven't scripted in my mind how to deal with that yet. And if I meet somebody that I know I'm going to meet, I've kind of mentally prepared in my mind what to say to that person. Yeah, it's very difficult. It's very difficult for me, and I feel like an absolute terrible person every time that happens, especially if it's a friend. Yeah, that's a really difficult one for me. Another one is kind of like in the similar vein, while we're on that topic, is if I actually don't see anyone, which happens a lot because I'm like in my own world when I'm outside, because I'm just, trying to deal with all the sensory overwhelm and overstimulation and, whatever. If somebody comes up to me and they're like, oh my God, hi, Linny, I haven't seen you in ages or whatever, that will also be like, it will cause me to have a little panic. But when that happens, I'm forced to talk to that person. I'm forced to react to that person. It's easier to do that because then the ball was put in their court, whereas me actually breaking my line of focus, talk to somebody, and maybe like we'll be standing there for a while, is significantly more difficult for me. And the last one, needing days to come back after social stuff. Before I actually understood why I work in this way, it gave me a lot of shame, actually. It gave me a lot of shame. I would feel very confused and almost a little jealous, actually, of these people who can just have a packed weekend or a packed holiday and they'll come back to work and be like, oh, yes, I did like 50 things this holiday, while also being able to throw a party for my kid, whatever. And I'd be like, yeah, I haven't done anything this weekend. I have literally just been resting from this job so that I will be able to barely make it through another week of this job. This is an incredibly common thing for us neurodivergent folks. I think before I would kind of push myself not to get the rest that I needed so that I would kind of have somewhat of a social life, even though my social life wasn't, equivalent to a very social neurotypical person, but I should try. And now I've kind of come to the conclusion after my burnout that I just need a lot more rest than everyone else. And since understanding that I am actually autistic and have ADHD, I need that rest. I think maybe especially because I've learned that I have ADHD, I need to force myself to take the time to rest, because if the ADHD side of my brain is stronger that day, it can kind of, I won't be able to stop what I'm doing. So I'll just push and push and push and push, and then I'll be completely burnt out for the foreseeable future. That is something, if you're AuDHD, to really take into consideration, because that has fucked me up on multiple occasions, but especially now. I've been burnt out for 3 years now and haven't been able to work, and it's been a very long learning process of what not to do. If you see yourself in any of these things, please comment below. Or if you have certain things that you didn't know about that are actually signs of your autism or ADHD, please comment down below, because I love learning about this and I love talking about this. And I think it's actually also very helpful for us to have this conversation, because that way we learn that we are not alone in this world that is not made for us neurodivergent people. Okay, enough yippity yapping. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!